Hey, I'm Hannah. Today we're doing that thing where I talk about a form of writing, my patrons send in examples, and then I edit them live as a demonstration. We'll make an example of them. This time we're looking at poetry. So writing is pretty subjective. Poetry is super duper subjective. Rupi Kaur is very successful. I'm gonna talk a little bit about what elements poems have and kind of like what you want to go for, but nothing has rules. Knowing the like traditionally proper way to write something before you write it a non-traditional way is gonna work out a lot better. It's gonna make you look less like an amateur because you can break rules as long as you know that you're breaking them and you know why you're doing it. So I'm going to briefly go over like 4 broad things that you look for when you're editing poetry. Then we'll see how it applies to the real poems. The first thing is structure or form. So is it a structured poem, like a limerick or a haiku? Is there a set rhyme scheme? Is it syllabic? Even if you don't have a defined structure, you should pay attention to the structure of your poem. Things like balance and punctuation. Like if you have 4 stanzas and there's 6 lines in each one and the last one only has 2 lines. Are you doing that on purpose? Does it work or does it make it imbalanced? So even if you're not using a structure with rules, you should use your structure intentionally. For punctuation, you don't have to be grammatically correct in poetry, but if you are using punctuation correctly throughout the whole thing, like it's just prose broken into lines, and then you have a random unintentional run-on sentence, like that's not gonna work. Another thing I kind of include under structure is the ending bit. So like the last word of a line, the last word in line of a stanza, and then the last word in line of the entire poem. That's what's gonna like echo in your reader's head. Those are the parts that are emphasized, so you're gonna want to use that emphasis to your advantage. The second thing is imagery. Imagery just refers to like tangible descriptions using the 5 senses. An image is something that your reader can connect to and experience, so we want poems with stronger imagery as opposed to abstractions. The third thing is sound and language. You can describe the exact same image but use different words for both, and it's gonna elicit entirely different feelings. So language is important. You also want to use original language, avoid stale phrasing and cliches. Sound can include rhyme, but also things like assonance and alliteration and the way that the consonants fall, exclusion, repetition, just like the different ways you can create rhythm, that sort of thing. That's where poetry gets fun and kind of differs the most from prose. You work a lot with sounds, so it's more like a song than a story. And something else you want to look at when you're writing poetry, but I won't really be able to edit into other people's poems, is meaning. Like what you want your poem to accomplish, what do you want your reader to be left with afterward. The way to write your poem's meaning well is to know what you're trying to do and then let other people read it, ask them what they thought, and see if their interpretation is lining up with your intent. So now we're gonna look at some poems and edit them with those 4 things in mind. I'm not a poet. I think I've published 7, maybe 8 or 9 poems, but I edit poetry a lot. So I'm going to make these changes based on what I think works best, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're the best changes possible. There are so many different things to think about and so many different poetic tastes. So the things that I change are likely not going to follow any kind of like agreed upon standard because there isn't one. So these are just my semi-informed opinions. And hopefully seeing the way that you can edit poetry will give you some ideas and better insight. But just remember that it is extremely subjective, and I'm going to edit these poems essentially to my own taste. Take of that what you will. I'm going to try to change as little as possible because these are other people's poems. I always say that though, don't I? These poems were written by my patrons. If you'd like me to edit your writing in a video, go to patreon.com/HannahLeeKidder. The first one we're going to look at is another of Gloria's. So this one's called 21. Am I scared of starting or starting over? Strange places or the familiar streets in my old car? I'll drive till I'm dead and you'll say I was smart to stay where I knew the way home in the dark. The truth is, I thought the way home in the dark knew me back. But street lights come on when I'm long gone, and you should go before you get comfortable, or it'll kill you too. Dim small town feels. Woof. She might want it to be actual numbers for a reason, but I'm going to change it to 21. You see how this first line, it ends in the middle of a thought, like without punctuation or being a complete sentence. That's called enjambment, but I don't know why we're stopping on the word of. So I'm going to put starting up there. Because remember I said you want the last word to be strong, because that's what kind of sits. So am I scared of starting is its own thought, or starting over. Strange places are the same familiar streets. Or familiar streets. Or I'm going to make familiar a little bit stronger. Something like that. I'm gonna make this an M dash. I'll drive till, this is the wrong till, she meant until. I'll drive till I'm dead. I like that as a final, yeah. You'll say I was smart to stay where I knew. I don't know why it's you'll. I feel like, I could be wrong, this is me interpreting and changing. I'm gonna say they'll say I was smart to stay where I knew the way home in the dark. Okay, so I split it up this way because they'll say I was smart to stay is its own thought, and then they'll say I was smart to stay where I knew the way home is its own thought, and then they'll say I was smart to stay where I knew the way home in the dark is a full thought. So it kind of builds on itself. I'm going to take out the truth is just because it's not really bringing anything. I feel like it weakens that. I thought the way home in the dark knew me back. I thought the dark knew me back. And there's no reason for this to be capitalized. That was probably like auto-correcting. I thought the dark knew me back, but streetlights come on when I'm long gone, and you should go before you get comfortable or it'll kill you too. I kind of like the way that that's rambly, but I think I'm going to you should go before you get comfortable or it'll kill you too. I don't know that I want it in 3 stanzas. That was just what happened there. What if we switch up the beginning? So am I scared of starting over or starting at all? That feels stronger to me. I'm going to make my old car a little more specific. 2012 Corolla. Gloria drives a Corolla, which I think is a 2008. I like 2012 and my 2012 Corolla. I think that sounds nice. Am I scared of starting over or starting at all? Strange places or memorized streets in my 2012 Corolla. I'll drive till I'm dead. This is another thing where it's like, I'll drive. That could be the end of it, and then you get the till I'm dead, so that puts a little more emphasis on it. Am I scared of starting over or starting at all? Strange places or memorized streets in my 2012 Corolla. I'll drive till I'm dead. They'll say I was smart to stay where I knew the way home in the dark. I thought the dark knew me back. Thought the dark knew me back. I almost changed this to 2, but we already have 2 down here, and also this, I think that's a distinct voice, just the way that's phrased, so I'm going to leave it. I thought the dark knew me back, but streetlights come on when I'm long gone. You should go before you get comfortable, or it'll kill you too. What if, bear with me here, we move this up there, take out the first lines. What if we put new, my way home in the dark? They'll say I was smart to stay where I knew my way home in the dark. Strange places or memorized streets in my 2012 Corolla. I'll drive till I'm dead. I thought the dark knew me back, but streetlights come on when I'm long gone. You should go before you get comfortable or it'll kill you too. Yep. I'm messing with it. So I mostly rearranged that one, did a little bit of cutting. This is a good example of poetry being subjective. I prefer minimalism. If I can cut words or lines or entire stanzas, I'm going to. A lot of time when I'm workshopping a poem with someone, I'll pull out like a couple lines and maybe a stanza, and I'll send it back to them and be like, this is the strong bits. Write another poem, keep these, and just like throw the rest away. That's just how poetry is sometimes. Now we're going to look at Casey's. So this poem is from an assignment that was to emulate a Walt Whitman poem, which is why it's called Song of Myself. Walt Whitman had like that several mile long poem with lines like this, and like every first letter of every line is capitalized. So I'm going to edit this like it's not a Walt Whitman poem and just do whatever I want to it. What's up? Yeah, I'm probably going to cut like half of this away, but anyway. Song of Myself. The raven stares down and calls at me. She wonders at my silence and my thinking. I too am anxious. I too am burning. I sound my barking laugh to fight off what feels impossible to overcome. I depart as water. I feel my honey hair wave and shimmer in the current. I fuse my flesh into the trees and feel it take root and grow. I relinquish myself to the forests and the rivers to grow and yet always move. If you want me, look again for me in the shade of the trees and the rush of the current. Failing to feel me at first, rest a while. Missing me in this grove, search another. I am constant and ever present here for you. I wonder about myself only because who else can I truly explore? Am I connected to anyone else? Or rather, are we connected in the way I think we are? Is my bleeding heart, my biting wit, my barking laugh too much, too sharp, too loud? For someone so certain, I am certainly full of questions. I blame the anxiety, the imposter syndrome. It's really hard to hang around with saints, Neil Gaiman croons knowingly to me. Thank God my questioning keeps me from vivisecting 3 young tourists from Utrecht, figuratively, of course. Here are the things I do understand for now about me. I like to surround myself in pastels, corn-sick yellow, sky blue lavender, and I love red, deep and strongly pigmented. I am fiercely loyal, yet I have lost the ones I love for the sake of my honesty, my pride, but it's water and bridges, right? I am like the koala. That is so funny to me. Okay, I am like the koala, seemingly docile yet vicious on the attack. Just gonna start yelling this like every day. I am the koala. I cherish my body as a vessel of life, but that has not kept thoughts of destruction away. I long to move, I long to be still. Whitman won't be the last to ask, do I contradict myself? Yes, we do. We are large, we contain multitudes. Okay, so this is kind of a Walt Whitman quote, but it was, I am large, I contain multitudes. I like that. I'll probably leave it. Okay, I'm gonna say the raven caws to me. This kind of like subverts expectations because you'd think it'd be calling at you, and I feel like it fits the voice because it's a little bit whimsical and the connections between the narrator and the world are weird, so I like that. Raven calls to me, wonders at my silence and my thinking. This isn't like technically grammatically correct, but a lot of this isn't, so that's fine. Like I said, you don't have to be grammatically correct in poetry as long as it's like mostly consistent throughout the whole thing. I too am anxious, I too am burning. I'm going to take this line out because I don't think it brings anything to this section, and because we have barking laugh later. Depart as water, I feel my honey hair. Waves and shimmers in the current. What about just my flesh fuses to trees? My flesh fuses to the trees, takes root and grows. What if we, if you want me, look in the shade of trees and the rush of current? I'm a big slut for removing articles from poetry, but that's like a personal preference. And since we've got Walt Whitman happening, I'm gonna throw in some Emily Dickinson. Also a slut for M dashes, sorry. If you want me, look in the shade of trees and the rush of current. Failing to feel me at first, rest a while. I don't like every line starting with a capital letter. Failing to feel me, rest a while. Missing me in this grove, search another. I am constant and ever present here for you. I feel like that's implied with like, if you can't find me, keep looking, like I'm here, you know, so I'll take that out. Normally I'm splitting up lines, but for some reason, I like this as one bit. I really like these 2 lines. For someone so certain, I certainly am full of questions. I like that too. I'm gonna take out I blame the anxiety, the imposter syndrome, just because like that stands out so much as like, I don't know, modern. It's also kind of telly. It's really hard to hang around with saints, Neil Gaiman. I'm just gonna, oops. Not that those lines were bad. I don't know, they stood out odd for me. I'm gonna take this out because that's just like, let me talk about my favorite colors for a long time. I'm gonna end that there. I'm not like super nuts about that line, but I really like this, and it works as a bit for me. The raven calls to me, wonders at my silence and my thinking. I too am anxious, I too am burning. I depart as water, my honey hair waves and shimmers in the current. My flesh fuses to the trees, takes root and grows. I relinquish myself to the forests and the rivers. If you want me, look for me in the shade of trees and the rush of current. So, the trees and current, we just talked about those. What if we look for me in the shade and rush? What about that? Yeah, boy. I relinquish myself to the forests and the rivers. If you want me, look for me in the shade and rush. Look in the shade and rush. Failing to feel me rest a while, missing me in this grove search another. I like that. Wonder about myself only because who else can I truly explore? Am I connected to anyone else, or rather are we connected in the way I think we are? Is my bleeding heart, my biting wit, my barking laugh too much, too sharp, too loud for someone so certain? I am certainly full of questions. I feel like something's off about this stanza, like either the first two lines could be changed or there could be a line connecting them, because I feel like there's a thought missing. It's very possible I just cut the thought out. I'm gonna put an M dash, sorry. I can't control myself. Here are the things I do understand for now about me. I like to surround myself in pastels, corn silk yellow, sky blue lavender. I am fiercely loyal, yet I have lost the ones I love for the sake of my honesty, my pride, but it's water and bridges, right? I am like the koalas. I mean, I think I'm really gonna take the koala line out. And I think I'm going to... I am fiercely loyal, blah, blah. Cherish my body as a vessel of life that has not kept thoughts of destruction away. Something strange about this line, but I don't feel like rewriting it. I long to move. I long to be still. Whitman won't be the last to ask, do I contradict myself? Yes, we do. We are large. We contain multitudes. Since I, took away the rest of the Whitman in this piece, I almost want to take that out, but I like it, so I won't. Okay. Yep, that's done. So I cut most of that. Honestly, I could have cut more and been perfectly content. I have an addiction to deleting other people's hard work. The last poem is Connie's. Okay, this one's called Peaks and Valleys, and the first line is Peaks and Valleys. So gonna have to change the title. Peaks and valleys, flashing vibrant green against hollow dark, pallid skin pressed firmly into sheets, sterile, white, and stark. Fluttering lids, a breath he can't catch, fading of a spark, ending alone, etched into stone, is where he'll leave his mark. Oh, okay, so, first stanza, kinda sexy. Second stanza, kinda sexy, a little weird. Third stanza, kinda sexy. And then the last stanza is dead. So I definitely thought this was sexy, and it's not now. So I need to absorb that. Peaks and valleys. That's titties, right? Okay. Oh, peaks and... Okay. Flashing vibrant green against hollow dark. I guess it's like peaks and valleys, the monitoring. This is a hospital. Okay. I was thinking this was like a dark expression on someone's face and green eyes. That's what I interpreted. All right, so structurally, we've got 4 stanzas, 3 lines each. The last line of each stanza is an end rhyme. And then there's some internal rhyme, like alone in stone. Pressed in sheets is kind of a sight rhyme. And then we've got 4-syllable 5-5, 4-5-5, 4-5-5, 4-5-5. So this is very intentional. A lot of the time, like most times that you kind of corner yourself into a rhyme scheme, you're going to be, or syllabic scheme, you're going to severely limit your word choice options, obviously, and it makes it sound kind of sing-songy, and I don't think that's working for this piece. It definitely can work, but it's very difficult to do. Peaks and valleys, flashing bright green against hollow dark, pallid skin pressed firmly into sheets. Like the word firmly, pressed firmly, that's not great. So I feel bad changing it up when she tried so hard to keep this structure, but I'm gonna do it. So we can do like peaks and valleys of vibrant green on hollow dark. We could put last. Fluttering lids last. So that's 5. Breath he can't catch. That's 4. Fading spark. It's like a little cliche. And now that messes up the 3 lines per stanza. But ending alone, etched into stone is where he'll leave his mark. What about etched in stone? His only mark. And then what if we make this one huge run-on sentence? And etch on a stone? Yeah, so this is kind of how poetry goes. Like, it just gets worse and then better and then worse and then better, and then you kind of hate yourself, and it's the process. And then what if we don't use stanzas? What about won't? Peaks and valleys of vibrant green against hollow dark, pallid skin pressed against sheets, sterile white and stark, fluttering lids, a breath he won't catch, and etch on a stone his only mark. And M dash. I decimated the structure that she probably tried very hard to do. Sorry, Connie. I feel like I made it clearer that it was a death from the beginning and not sexy times. But maybe I'm the only person that read it that way. I also like the run-on sentence feel it has now, because to me it conveys that panic and hopelessness of watching someone die and not being able to catch up with your thoughts. It's just all input. Anyway, that's all I got. Hope that helped. If you'd like to have something you've written edited in this video series, go to patreon.com/HannahLeeKidder. And if you'd like a workshop or manuscript critique, go to HannahLeeKidder.com/services. Thanks to my patrons for sponsoring this video, especially Gloria, Casey, and Connie, and everyone else who sent in poems for me this week. Check the description for their social links if you'd like to see some more of them. Okay, see you next week. Bye.